Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Helena Natt. I'm the Executive Director with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. And this morning we have Going Global with Your Business. We are really excited to have Export-Import Bank of the United States and the U.S. Commercial Service, U.S. Department of Commerce, International Trade, U.S. Export Assistance Center that are going to be making two PowerPoint presentations on how to take your business globally. And it's very informative because the idea behind this is to provide as much information for you to grow your business, whether you're local, regional, national, or international. This will provide you the great information on how to do that. This is being recorded. And I don't know, I will find out from Richard and Carmela whether they will provide the PowerPoint presentations afterwards. Put your questions in the chat. We'll have a Q&A at the end. And we are going to start off with Richard Foy. He is the Regional Director, Eastern Region from the Export-Import Bank of the United States. So we're really excited to have him. The Greater New York Chamber does a lot internationally. We just did doing business with Dubai. Mark Jaffe, our president, is speaking at the Nepal consulate this evening, as well as we are part of the World Trade Committee. And on May, I believe 26th, we are secure with our date for World Trade cocktail reception. So I am going to turn it over to Richard right now. He is going to turn on his PowerPoint presentation, and we were going to go from there. Again, this is being recorded. It will be on Chamber TV. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to put your information in the chat. Take it away, Richard.
Thank you so much, Helena. I'm happy to be here, and thanks to the Greater New York Chamber for hosting this. It's always a welcome opportunity to get our message out and the tools that we offer for exporters and put it in context alongside of U.S. Commercial Service. Carmela is going to give some excellent context to what we do jointly for the exporting community. So I'll start with just introducing myself. I'm Richard Foy, the Regional Director of Ex-Im Bank. And Ex-Im Bank, we're a federal government agency established in 1934 as part of the New Deal with the objective of growing jobs through export. So it was identified early on that companies that export grow at a faster rate. They're more sustainable, and they hire more people as a result of that. So that's why the U.S. government has such intense interest in supporting the export of U.S. goods, particularly. The agency is headquartered in Washington, D.C. I operate out of one of 12 regional offices, New York, alongside with Carmela. And my area of responsibility is New York up to Maine, so the northeast of the U.S. Our mission really, fills the gaps in and complements private sector financing. We're not in competition with the private sector, and that's important to note. And I'll explain a little further, a little more, down the line. At a high level, I'll just go over the general needs of exporters and how our programs kind of plug into those needs. Often you'll need, as an exporter, you'll need funds to fulfill orders, and our working capital loan guarantee really fits that bill nicely. SBA has a similar loan guarantee, which I'll touch on as I'm going through the parameters of ours. Often you'll be asked to extend payment terms to foreign buyers. This makes U.S. exporters very uncomfortable early on, at least, until they understand how they can protect themselves and even leverage those requirements. Export receivable insurance is what we offer to answer that need. And sometimes you'll have capital equipment purchases that are large and need financing directly for the foreign buyer. So this is usually large capital equipment that's to be financed longer than a year, and we have a medium and long-term insurance and loan guarantees to provide that financing and make you competitive in the market. We are small business focused, even though Ex-Im Bank, you've probably heard, is supporting very large transactions and projects, GE turbines and Boeing aircrafts and the like. In fact, the vast majority of our transactions are small business focused. And we really put an emphasis on small business and really enjoy working with them as well. Our financing, as I said, often makes a difference in helping you level the playing field and compete globally, minimize the risk of buyer non-payment, and again, we supplement commercial financing, give them the incentive to make loans that would not otherwise be made. It's important to note that no company or transaction is too small. So we look at very small businesses, very small transactions, particularly with the export credit insurance. So what is a small deal to some people is actually a meaningful deal to others, and we look to support all size exports. So it's important to look at, why do only 1% of the companies export, of the U.S. companies export? And often it's fear of the unknown and risk. And, it's presentations like this and partners like the Greater New York Chamber and U.S. Commercial Service that look to eliminate the unknown, right? We look to enlighten you, educate you through these programs, and reduce the risk as at the same time. Ex-Im Bank, we have our programs do cover the spectrum here. As I said, our insurance program, is post-export financing, and then with pre-export finance, we would consider the working capital guarantee. So financing needed before the export actually occurs. And we'll go through each of those programs now, starting with our working capital guarantee. I'd like to start with this because I think it's good for exporters to understand what the guarantee part really means. Often folks will think that it's a guarantee that they directly benefit from. And I want to clarify, this is kind of an indirect benefit to you. The guarantee is made to a commercial lender, and it's to incentivize them to make loans that they wouldn't otherwise make, all right, that they feel are inherently risky. Exports are not particularly attractive to lenders because they don't like the fact that the sales made overseas, they can't go and visit the buyer so easily, and so on. So it's really important that we incentivize them properly and reduce the risk for them by providing this guarantee to unlock the working capital needed to sustain export. So we unlock cash flow. You're able to borrow more with the same collateral, and I have a couple of slides that illustrate that nicely. And you're absolutely able to increase your global competitiveness with our guarantee. So again, it provides a 90% guarantee of repayment, principal and interest, to the lender. All right. It can be set up as transaction specific. So if you have maybe a large project that you're working on, you need working capital for the inputs of that to actually facilitate it. We can do that as a standalone loan. More often than not, they're set up as revolving lines of credit. So if you're working with distributors, you're making products that are fairly regular, and you're going to need to replenish that working capital, that's the way we set it up. It's the support. So the loan supports advances that are made against export receivables, inventory, including WIP, and they can be used as a standby letter of credit as well. And I'll go into that in some detail. It is an asset-based, fully collateralized loan, and we'll talk about the collateral. As with any government loan guarantees. It requires personal guarantee from owners 20% or more. The fees associated are fees to the lender because, again, this is a guarantee for the benefit of the lender, although they are passed on to you. Interest rates are determined by the lender and negotiated with you as the exporter and the lender directly. So you're able to unlock cash flow and pay for materials, equipment, supplies, labor, and other inputs rather. You can't use our working capital facility for research and development or capital expenses, new machinery and the like. It has to be used for the production or procurement of goods for export. The flow is pretty simple. You need working capital. You're going to speak with your lender. They're going to say, we can't do this based on your current situation. And that could be maybe a collateral shortfall. It could be perhaps a credit. You need a credit enhancement. Something is missing that they can't do it in a standard way. So here's where we look to add value, and they'll pull us in to provide the guarantee. We have delegated lenders and non-delegated lenders. If you're working with a delegated lender, what that means is that they've been given the authority from EXIM Bank to approve the loan up to a certain limit. They've each been given a limit that it can work on, and there's no secondary underwriting required. If your particular lender doesn't have delegated authority, that's fine. It just means that it would come before our underwriters in DC for a secondary review before it's processed. That does take a little bit longer, but it's not too bad. Here's a great illustration, I think, anyway, of a typical collateral base. You have export inventory, raw materials, WIP, finished goods of $1 million. And then you have export foreign receivables, also about $1 million. It's made up of open account as well as letter of credit backed AR. And you can see the advance rate of a typical lender without an EXIM guarantee is very low. Raw materials only 20% because they have to think about how do they liquidate this and get some of their money out of it. Work in progress, half-baked goods. Yeah, they can't really do anything with it, so they won't advance anything. Finished goods, they discount to 50%. Account receivable, foreign accounts receivable, they won't, if they are not insured, they won't cover them at all. They won't advance on them at all, I should say. And LC backed AR, they will push 70%. So EXIM Bank comes into the picture, and we're able to we allow banks under our guarantee to push the advance rate up to 75% across the board on export inventory. All right, so you're unlocking a lot right there. And then more importantly, on the open account foreign receivables, 90% where you wouldn't have received anything there. So you're going from $2 million in collateral, having the ability to borrow 760,000 without a guarantee, upwards of 1.6 million with the guarantee. So this is meaningful when you're growing your export business. I'm going to focus on this particular area, open accounts foreign receivable. This is arguably where you can leverage the most, where you can change things, put yourself in a better competitive position, and help yourself when it comes to financing. But first, I'll discuss sales terms from a risk perspective. Sellers always want to receive money first and then send the goods. That's a perfect scenario, right? Buyers want to do the complete opposite because it's a high risk to send money out and hope that you're going to receive the product. As a seller, you want to be as competitive as possible. You want to make things easy and low risk for the buyer, but you want to do it in a responsible way, right? Right in the middle where you have letters of credit and cash against document, that area You're bringing in a third party, and while there's security to that, it comes with additional cost and burden. A letter of credit, for example, well, you're locking up their credit facility. So if you're asking for cash in advance, the order size has to be limited to the cash that they have available to make that order. Sliding over letter of credit, the order size is limited to the credit they have available with the lender, and so on. So what can we do to address this and put you in a competitive position? Export credit insurance. Export and credit insurance is a policy that covers the receivables that are generated from an export sale, and it protects against non-payment from international buyers. It allows you to be competitive with open account credit terms. And as I mentioned earlier with the working capital, it allows you to leverage those receivables into working capital. And that's not only when you're working with EXIM Bank on the working capital side. It applies to an SBA loan, and even can increase your borrowing base if you don't have any guarantee on loan. If you have a standard line of credit with your lender, they will then look at those receivables that are insured as a viable source of income, and they will advance on them. The process is very simple, and really you don't have to change much about how you operate now. Once you have identified an international buyer that wants to buy on credit terms, you can secure a policy with us. We put a policy in place, and you have the tools available to then offer credit terms to your foreign buyer, for them to accept the deal, and then you ship your product on open payment terms. The only difference is step 5. You'll report those shipments on a monthly basis to us, and you'll pay the premium. If the buyer pays, there's no problem. If they don't pay, then you follow our claim process. You get paid from EXIM Bank, and we work that particular invoice out with the foreign buyer. Under these policies, we cover both commercial and political risk. Commercial risks are insolvency, bankruptcy, protracted default, meaning that they don't pay in accordance with the terms outlined. Political risks are arguably more important these days. War, revolution, insurrection, which is far too often occurring. Currency transfer risk, where they can't get US dollars out of the country. This happens more often than you may think. And a cancellation of import or export license. Goods may be on the water even, but they're unable to receive them because of license cancellation. These are all things that would be covered under our policy. Generally, under our policy, we can extend payment terms up to 180 days. That's on the long side of things. South America, they usually push terms, longer terms. Europe and Europe's a little shorter. Usually 30 days are fine. A lot of it has to do with transit times and the actual receipt of goods. We can push it up to a year, depending on the actual product that's being exported. Generally, our coverage is 95%, and I'll go into the details of each policy in a moment. And as I said, it covers both political and commercial risks. We have lender policies covering the lenders, but it sounds like they're already secure. In many ways, we protect them. So I'm going to focus on exporter policy options, multi-buyer, single buyer, and select risk policies. This is basically how it breaks down. Our multi-buyer policy is one policy that we plug in your buyers. Think of it as a binder, and then we add a page for each buyer that you have, identifying that particular buyer, the credit limit established, and the tenor or the terms established, and so on to the one policy. It's a portfolio coverage, meaning that the expectation is that we're covering all of your export sales on credit terms. Our Express program is specifically designed for small businesses that are just starting to use credit insurance. So this is like kindergarten for you know, for exporters, if you will. We do the credit analysis in-house. We don't require any sort of credit reports or anything from you. We just need really some key information about the particular buyer, and we do all the work. Also offers 95% coverage, no deductible. And then our single buyer policy. This is where you have a very specific need. More often than not, it's where somebody has a private insurance policy and their private underwriter can't give sufficient limits, or they don't like the particular area of the world, so they can't fulfill the exporter's needs. Our goal is to make sure that you're not missing those opportunities. So we stretch into those areas, and we're fine with that concentrated risk. We do cover it 90% because we do have that concentrated risk. And you just put a policy together for each one of those buyers. It's an annual policy, and you can ship to them as many times throughout the year. Some underwriting standards I'll go over. Up to $100,000, really just trade reference is what we're looking at. 100 to 500,000, we'd want to see a credit report. If we're doing this under express policy, you wouldn't need that. We would obtain the credit report. Otherwise, you'd work with a broker that we introduce you to, and they would obtain a credit report for you. 500 to $1 million, then we start looking at financial statements and perhaps bank references. All of our applications come through specialist brokers. They focus on, so insurance brokers focus solely on trade credit insurance, and they operate on domestic and international. Our program is only for export sales, so we don't do any domestic operation. I like this structure because I could tell you all day what Ex-Im Bank can and cannot do. That doesn't mean that's all that can and cannot be done. So a specialist broker has the broader market in mind. They know when another option might be more appropriate for you. And we don't have a problem when you graduate from our program and move on to another program. Again, our goal is to make sure that you're not missing out on opportunities. This is why we work very closely with our brokers and the private market. Doesn't cost you any more to work with a broker, and they're an excellent resource from adding buyers, claim handling, and so on. This is a case study where an exporter had 12 active policies with Ex-Im Bank all around the world, to Asia, Middle East, South America, Europe. The policies ranged from 50,000 limit to 600,000. And the average policy cost, because single buyer policies are rated at the country risk level. So you might have a great financially secure buyer in a difficult, financially speaking, part of the world, and the rate might be higher than you know, in an easier area. Europe tends to be lower priced. So they use private insurance as their main coverage, and this is an example of, like I said a moment ago, where they supplemented with these Ex-Im policies where they needed. And this was for a customer in our minority women-owned business group, an Oregon company. Our medium-term financing allows for loans to be made from U.S. lenders directly to the foreign buyer. So in these cases, you might have capital equipment where financing of over a year is desirable. U.S. interest rates are preferred, and maybe they can't get financing locally. We would assist in making that sale by providing that financing or providing a guarantee to the lender who would make the financing. The difference between this and your standard credit insurance, you would be holding that receivable. It's not usually desirable for you to hold on to a receivable for over a year. For sure, you want to get paid. So this allows you to turn your cash over. You get paid once the goods are exported. The lender holds the loan directly with the foreign buyer, and you move on to a new deal. Usually it's repayment of up to 5 years. We can push it to 7, and $25 million or less are usually what's handled in this area. When it goes beyond 25 million, usually it goes into a longer term type of structure. Some of the restrictions, I know everything sounded so great, but I have to say some restrictions that we have. We can't participate with military or defense related products. So certainly no munitions, but we can't do maybe like a uniform being sold to a foreign military either. That's just the way we're structured. The goods must ship from the U.S. Port, and we are open in over 180 countries. Our country limitation schedule identifies the countries in which we're open, where we're not open, and then where we're open with some exceptions. There may be a limitation on certain credit risks, or there are certain caveats associated with some of the places that we are open, and that can also all be found at xm.gov, our country limitation schedule. Eligibility criteria for working with XM Bank. The products must ship from the U.S. with more than 50% U.S. content. This includes labor and overhead, but it doesn't include your markup. We look for more on the financing side, at least 3 years operating history and a positive net worth. Our credit insurance has slightly lower standards, although we do want to see at least a year in business and some exporting experience. You'll need a DUNS number from Dun & Bradstreet. You'll also need a UEI, Unique Entity Identifier. This is obtained and maintained through sam.gov. So some of our partners that we're often co-located with, Department of Commerce, and Carmela is going to take over and explain all the great tools they have available to you. And the Small Business Administration as well is a fantastic partner. We work very closely together because our programs, at least on the loan side, are so tightly, they're so close. Usually lenders will tend to lean into an SBA loan guarantee for smaller loan sizes, and then use XM for a larger loan sizes, maybe over $2 million. Because we're going to be sharing this deck, I've included some additional resources here so that you can look at. These are our socials. These are a map of our regional offices. And I think this is the most important slide. I think everybody, we're going to be sharing this, but if you have a camera handy, take your phone handy, take a picture of it. Reach out to me with any questions if you want to discuss your business, your export needs or challenges. Even though you may not have seen something on here that you think you can plug in, I will always listen to you, and I have a great network of partners that if I hear something from you, I can likely plug you into a great resource to help you. So I'll leave it at that and turn it over to Carmela, and we're going to have some questions later on in this event.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Richard. And right now, I am going to share my screen for multiple. Okay, share screen, bear with me. Okay. Hopefully it's going to allow me because something is going on. Can you guys see my screen?
No, but
No.
I'll go ahead and start introducing myself. I'm Carmela
Hold on.
Manis. Uh-huh.
It's interesting. Hold on, share screen. Here we go. Can you see it now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
just put it on full
Perfect.
screen. I'll put it in slideshow. That's it. So I'm Carmela Mamis. I'm Director of U.S. Commercial Service New York. My office is in Lower Manhattan. We also have several offices in New York State, as well as a couple in New Jersey, and one in Connecticut, and so on. We have 100 offices in the U.S. Helene, if you could go to the next slide. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about how your company can go global with the support of my agency, the U.S. Commercial Service. The U.S. Commercial Service is the lead federal export promotion agency, and we work closely with Exim Bank and SBA. As Richard mentioned, we're co-located with Exim Bank's Northeast Regional Office. So Richard's office is right down the hallway, as well as a regional trade finance manager from the SBA. We're in over 85 countries. We're based in the commercial section of the American Embassy and Consulates. So we have a true worldwide network from 100 offices in the US to export assistance available in over 80 countries. And then we work closely with the US State Department, where we don't have an office, for example, in some remote countries in Africa. So we also work really closely with the state of New York, Empire State Development, Global New York, and they have a handful of offices as well. So we work very closely with them, and they also have export grant funds. The one that is funded by the federal government that they provide is called the State Trade Expansion Program. So U.S. New York State companies can apply for that, funds permitting, to help with their export efforts. So I just wanted to mention our strong partnerships. So my agency works with export ready companies. We do work closely with the Small Business Development Center to help those companies to become export ready if they're not already. So next slide, please, Helena. So Richard mentioned that Exim has restrictions on certain types of products, whereas we have a 51% US content requirement, similar to what Exim has. So we're really here to help US companies with a product or service to export. We're, as I mentioned before, in over 100 cities in the US, and we're in over more than 78 countries. So next slide, please. So our services are broken down into 4 major categories, including export counseling, market intelligence, business matchmaking and events, and commercial diplomacy. And like I mentioned, my focus is export assistance, but then we also have an investment promotion arm as part of the same agency called Select USA. So we are supporting and promoting foreign firms to set up in the US. So I just wanted to mention that. That's not the purpose of this call, but it's important to be aware. So trade.gov, www.trade.gov is our website. There's lots of export information, including available no-cost market intelligence. So for example, if you're thinking about exporting to a certain country, we have a country commercial guide that my colleagues in country develop, and it outlines all the important things you want to know about exporting to a country, including specific marketing techniques or issues, appropriate sales channels. So we have a country commercial guide in every country we have an office. Those are excellent sources of market intelligence and, you know, good airplane reading. And then we also have industry specific reports as well. There's also statistics on Trade.Express. So it's important for companies to do their homework, identify the best prospects, the markets they should be focusing on. It's important that they do an international marketing plan where they could list, you know, target countries. So there's really a ton of information from statistics to country reports to industry reports that U.S. companies can access in order to develop their international marketing plan and really be, you know, strategic, because, you know, it's important to put your limited resources focus on exporting to the markets that you have the most potential. So then our sweet spot really is business matchmaking. So in addition to doing export counseling from A to Z, we do business matchmaking. So we work with our clients to identify the right partners overseas, whether that be agent, distributor, importer, or other systems integrator, retailer. So we work really closely with our international colleagues to help U.S. companies identify the right partners. Then two other things I'll mention is commercial diplomacy. So if a U.S. company is facing an unfair business practice, and it may be affecting like other companies in the same industry nationwide, we can do commercial diplomacy where our commercial officers who are based in our overseas offices can basically, you know, be in contact with foreign government officials to help resolve the issue. It may go up as far as, you know, the U.S. ambassador in that market, depending on, you know, how big the issue is. Then we also do advocacy support. So U.S. companies that are bidding on international foreign government tenders, we can put in a, you know, good word and encourage the foreign government to select the U.S. company for the project. Again, depending on how many U.S. jobs are going to be created, the U.S. ambassador might get engaged. So the whole purpose really is for us to support U.S. exports of goods and services, is to really help create more U.S. jobs. So that's why we're here and available as a resource. So I think I'm going to stop there to leave enough time for questions. I'm happy to answer any questions along with Richard.
So do you guys put your questions in the chat? First of all, thank you, Richard Foy and Carmela Mamas, for this very informative presentation. I just wanted to, you know, they talk about network of partners. That's providing you the information on growing your business globally. And Carmela is very she's the instrumental person for World Trade Month for New York. So there's a lot of events going on during the month of May, celebrating World Trade. And there's a lot of networking events going on that month. So definitely reach out to chamber.nyc to get a list of that. And also, Carmela, you probably on the World Trade website, correct?
Yes, I'll copy. Great, thank you. You know, we're really appreciative of the Greater Chamber being a World Trade Week partner. So yeah, there'll be lots of events being posted to the World Trade calendar. So I encourage, you know, everyone on this call to look at the calendar in about a month or two to see, you know, all the events that are happening and see which one's the right one for you. The kickoff event is May 9th. So that may be of interest to some, but I'll type in the URL in the chat. It's just a great website to keep you you know, refer back to, because there'll be lots of different events depending on where you are in your
Yeah, I couldn't agree
export
more. I mean,
endeavors.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I
Oh,
couldn't
go
agree
ahead,
more. I
Richard.
mean, I always encourage exporters to just block off May for education and networking, because they do such a great job putting programs together for I mean, you'll learn all sorts of things and be able to really plug into the resources. We have people from all over industry and exporting professionals that are giving their time up for these programs. I encourage everyone interested or currently exporting to really participate.
Yes, definitely. I'm just going over the questions. My company is starting the discovery of adding exporting to our line of business. What would be suggested the next key steps? They say that they would like to partner with a preferred partner. That's what you're all about for Exxon Bank, correct? And another country to work with. Plus, they want to start reaching out and getting started with Exxon and trade.gov.
Yeah, so I think this question really highlights the benefit of both Carmela's programs and mine. If you're looking to export more and get into exporting, Carmela's group can really help identify a great market for your particular product and service where you're likely to be successful. They can help vet, and I'm sorry, I'm taking actually Carmela's spot. She'll talk to this, I'm sure. But once you've identified a good partner, then Exim Bank can get involved from a financing standpoint as well, to make sure that you're protected against non-payment and that you have access to the working capital you need to fulfill those orders. But Carmela, maybe you can just
Yeah.
take a minute.
So was that Sean C's question? It depends where your company is located, because we have like 6 offices in New York State, 2 New Jersey, 1 in Connecticut. So it depends where you're located, but a good starting point may be my one of my colleagues, which I could, refer to you. I can type my name, in the chat. It depends also, like, do you need, any additional support? So we know the resources, but yeah, I think that's, we can talk like offline, but we definitely maybe the starting point, commercial service. So I don't yeah, we're happy to, talk it out and see what your needs are, but we can help a company, target markets like Richard mentioned. Then if you're export ready, we can we'll have you fill out a company questionnaire, confirm your export readiness, which it sounds like you are from your note. And then once we identify a handful of target markets, we could send your export questionnaire, company questionnaire, to my colleague who covers your industry in those particular countries, and so for them to give an assessment if they think you have potential, and they could help you find, a partner to help you export to that market. And then so we have customized services. Some are fee-based. For, we just sometimes charge a few $100s to do the market research, identify the companies. We're mandated to charge participation fee for certain programs. New York State, Global New York, they have a handful of offices. They don't charge for their international services, as far as, so they have programs as well. So in the countries they have offices, they don't charge. So we encourage companies to look at New York State's help as well, because some of our customized services have minimal fees. But so
Yeah,
anyway,
and that's exactly what we're talking about. There are so many different resources that are available to you. A conversation with with one of us will yield great results, because depending on where you are, you might not be a fit today for our either one of our programs, but maybe we'll refer you to the Small Business Development Center to get on track and get export ready, and then you're ready to engage with Carmelo. Or maybe yeah, Global New York is a great resource for you. We know their programs, and we can plug you in and introduce you to all of these resources.
Another question, I don't know if you're allowed to answer this because it might be, a legal or privacy. Someone wants to know if you worked with the new airline company, or airline companies in the past. And also, how about the sale and support services of software and software as service for EY, Asia, and EMEA, including collecting country-specific data for software? So those are really specific
Yeah,
questions.
I'll take those from an XM standpoint at a high level.
Yeah.
Airlines, absolutely. We work with them. We finance aircraft regularly. I'll say. So that's not a problem. We have a whole aviation division to work through those deals. Software we also do, and this is generally unique. Your program, we have to get the specifics, because what control, how do you sell it? Is it a license thing? Do you control the software in any way? Do you have the ability to turn it off? Those are some elements that help control the risk. But absolutely. So we hard goods, software, services, these are all eligible under our programs.
Amazing. And you know what, if it's a new business in the Bronx, congratulations. We'd love to hear that new businesses are either establishing or moving into the Metro New York area. So we're really excited about that. The last one is, hello and thanks for the presentation. Should I offer our services to facilitate exports? Ford has been established, and oh, that's just a general one. Any other questions that I did not? One more, and then we don't. Okay, I think they're answering that. So yes, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to them. Are you going to be allowing me to send out your PowerPoint presentations?
Please do.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So everyone who, as long as you RSVP'd and signed up through chamber.nyc, that means you received the Zoom link from me. You will get a copy of the PowerPoint presentations today, as well as it is on Chamber TV. It will be posted on Chamber TV. On behalf of, Richard, thank you so much for providing this information. It's very informative. It really helps economic development and economic growth for the Metro New York area. Carmela, so appreciative of your time and your support and your partnerships, both of you, with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce, and how much information and what you do for World Trade. It's amazing that, if you really put down the, crack the numbers, you guys, hands off to you. So we really appreciate everything that both of your organizations do. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to them. Feel free to reach out to myself. Sorry about the video. We were having technical problems with Zoom on seeing our faces, but we got the PowerPoint in, and that's the most important thing. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and everyone have a great day. And we hope to see you in May for World Trade Month celebrations. Thank you again.
Thanks so much for the audience,
Oh,
Helena.
thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much. Anytime. It's a pleasure.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.